All right, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar. We're going to be talking about pre-construction as well as assignment sales. So this is a question that we get a lot. So we are going to talk about it. So we welcome your questions. Please interact. This is clearly a popular topic because I'm still admitting people into the room. So yeah, I'm glad that you guys are all interested in this. Thank you, James, for joining me today.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon. Yeah, so James is one of the growth managers here in Toronto. So he is going to help me just conduct this webinar and we'll answer your questions. As I said, we are talking about pre-construction and assignment sales. So we will talk about pre-construction, where to find those units, because of course they're not on MLS yet. They're currently under construction. So there's lots of leads that come into our CRM asking for information on pre-construction. So we'll talk about where to find those. And then of course, there are many occasions when people do purchase pre-construction and then they want to assign their unit. So we'll talk about assignment sales as well. So those kind of go hand in hand. Whew, okay, I'll keep admitting people here. This is really well attended. Thanks so much, guys. All right, admit all. So before we get started, just since I'm still admitting people into the room, I do want to give you guys a quick reminder that tomorrow is ZoloCon. So since we have a good group here, I definitely want to mention that. So if you haven't registered, please do so, because there will be topics such as this one, you know, a wide range of speakers, a wide range of topics. You'll be able to jump in and listen to a bunch of different things. I'm super excited about that. James, do you remember any of the topics off the top of your head that we'll be addressing tomorrow at ZoloCon?
I do know that there will be a lawyer there. There will be Zolo mortgages. I believe there's a wellness component. I'm sure Mustafa will be speaking, and Kevin Ali as well.
Yeah, so it's going to be really well attended, really informative. I'm going to be interviewing a panel of top producers. So if you want to know how they got started, what they're doing that makes them successful, tune into that session with me. All right, without further ado, let's get started. Let's talk about pre-construction and assignment sales. All right, so as I said, lots of times people are interested in pre-construction, but how do you find out where those developments are? How do you know what stage they're in? So a website that I recommend is called Buzzbuzzhomecom, and you can search any area and it will populate all of the developments that are currently under construction in that particular area. So if you go to BuzzBuzzHome and you type in Toronto, it'll pull up a map and you'll be able to view you know, different properties in different locations, and it will tell you whether they are currently selling, if they're not selling yet, if they're in the occupancy phase. So this is a really great website to bookmark and to use. If you want to become an assignment specialist, this is going to sound like a plug, but we have nothing to do with Buzzbuzz Homes. If you want to supplement your leads and, you know, become an expert in assignment sales, they do offer advertising on here as well. So I know that that's just a side note. I get lots of questions sometimes about how to market yourself outside of the Zolo system. So this is definitely one way. James, are you familiar with this website? Have you used it at all in the past?
I have used it in the past, and when it was in its infancy, I used to have drinks with the guys that actually started it.
There you go.
But I've never used it myself. I've never used it myself, but I've recommended it to a lot of people, and a lot of agents find it very, very good.
Yeah, it's an excellent resource, just because of course we can't keep track. We often rely on our MLS system to search for properties, and you know, if something hasn't hit the market yet, then we're out of the loop. So just know about these, you know, websites. This is the one I recommend. This is the one I use always. So I don't know if there are other ones out there. If you guys know of any, feel free to drop in the chat any other resources that you've used, but definitely buzzbuzzhome.com. The thing about this, I did just mention, yes, you do have an opportunity here to purchase advertising and feature yourself as an assignment specialist. So just do a little bit of digging, because if you do click on a property, it's much like the Zolo website, right? You think that you're reaching the listing agent, but you're not. So when you do click on a property, just click again to make sure that you are looking at who the developer is and you're going directly to their website, so that you can get information directly from the developer and not an agent who is advertising their services on their website. So I'm getting some questions. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. What is the real net then? Buzzbuzzhomes.com. All right. So let's talk a little bit about pre-construction and what it is. So first of all, the contract. So pre-construction, of course, is buildings, freehold properties even that are currently under construction. So they are advertised by the developer. And so talking about the contract specifically, you are not going to be using the agreement of purchase and sale that you are used to. So it is created by the developer, and it's often positioned in the developer's advantage. So the contract is written by a lawyer who ensures that the developer is covered from it says here known and unknown contingencies. So definitely make sure that you read it over. You read it over with your clients, and there will be a period for you to review it, or for your clients to have a lawyer review it. So just make sure that they fully understand what it is, because again, it's not going to be a contract that you are familiar with. And all of the developers have a fairly standardized, I would say, contract. They're all pretty similar, but of course, they tweak them to their own project at hand. So that's that about the contract. Anything to add there, James?
No, but I can let people in, so you can keep talking if you like.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, we're at 100 attendees, so this is a hot topic for sure. So yes, talking about pre-construction, of course, the contract is different. It is provided by the developer, and the deposit is structured also a little bit differently. So just taking some information here that I've put together. Generally speaking, you have to provide a deposit of 5% upon signing the agreement. And again, each project will vary. They will have different structures for their deposit, but generally they will require that 5% upon signing the agreement. And then there's usually, as I said, a structure to an additional 5%, perhaps in 10 to 15 days, another 5%, perhaps at 30 days, 90 days, 180 days. So again, really make sure that you are familiar with that you're asking the developer what that deposit structure is. It's usually made pretty clear. They'll often give you a page that breaks it down for you, so you and your clients can review it and just make sure that, yes, they'll be able to meet all of those targets, because of course you don't want to be in breach of that. So just make sure you know when your deposit is going to be due. So 5% sometimes when they break ground, 5% on occupancy, so lots of different structures. I know I've seen a couple of builders promote, 5% only until such and such a date. So they try to make it as attractive as possible. But yeah, obviously, if you're in a higher, more desirable location, then you are going to have probably, 3 or 4 payments. So just keep in mind that the deposit is structured. So this is, advantageous to your clients. Some people who maybe, they don't have their whole down payment ready right now, but they know that they're going to have, money coming in sort of sporadically. And this might help them obtain something attractive, right? Something brand new and a new development. So it is attractive for lots of buyers. Of course, there are pros and cons to pre-construction, which we will talk about. All right, so let's get into the cooling off period. So the cooling off period is 10 days in Ontario, where you have basically time to change your mind. It's a cooling off period. It is exactly what it sounds like. So every purchaser of a new condo has 10 days to reconsider their purchase. So they're not calendar days, they're business days. And during this period, really, they're supposed to be doing their due diligence. So it's much like a condition in a regular agreement of purchase and sale, where you have conditions. Remember those days when we had conditions on financing and inspection? Usually in resale agreements, we have 5 days, right, to do the buyer's due diligence. But here with pre-construction, it is a 10-day cooling off period. So again, same thing as residential resale, they have the opportunity to get financing pre-approval, have the agreement reviewed by their lawyer. So that's an important piece, because again, these contracts are created by the developer. So the lawyer, will take a look at it and just hopefully put it into plain English so everybody knows what they're signing and what they're proceeding with. So of course, if the buyer changes their mind for any reason, then their deposit is returned to them. So it's, again, much like a resale contract, agreements of purchase and sale, where they provide that 5% deposit upon acceptance. And then, if their conditions fall through, if they're not satisfied with the inspection or they're not able to secure financing, then that deposit is returned to them without deduction. So same thing here, it's just called something different. It's a 10-day cooling off period. All right, so important to know that. And then, of course, the waiting game. So while builders will provide an expected completion date, That's not always on time. In fact, usually it's not on time. So, and that's why these builders kind of create these contracts themselves, because it gives them the right to delay all sorts of things, right? So it can even be for a surprisingly long period of time. I don't know, James, if you've come across pre-construction that has been delayed months and months and months or even years, but I know that that's out there. So it's definitely on the, the developer's right to do so. So the actual delays and builder penalties are outlined in the agreement of purchase and sale. So yeah, there's a range here that, maybe suggest to your clients to expect at least 6 months, maybe even up to 2 years for delays. James, what's your experience in, in pre-construction delays?
I've had a couple of clients wait up to 3 years.
Oh, wow.
But that's extreme. Most of them are, 6 months, a year, somewhere out there.
Yeah.
But who knows with COVID and the slowdown with work and all that, it's really hard to gauge at this point.
That is true. Yes. So definitely, let your clients know that. It's all about informing your clients so that there are no surprises. You have to prepare them that there will be a surprise. So do not count on that completion date as a firm deadline. So if they're selling something and they're expecting to move in the next day, that's you're probably going to have a contingency plan there. So just let them know that if they are buying pre-construction, that there is usually a delay. So just to expect that. Because yes, change is the name of the game. So builders have a fair amount of leeway to make changes to the units and the buildings. We've seen builders add or subtract floors, change layouts, decide that the rooftop pool should now be somewhere else in the building. So buyers are protected from any material changes, but you might be surprised what is not considered material. So really read the sales agreement and be prepared to be flexible. Have you seen any major changes like that, James, in your experience, where they've changed amenities or layouts?
I haven't seen change amenities or layout. Well, a little bit layouts. I found that some people had structural columns as a feature in their soft loft, and the ones closest to the ground floors were a little bit bigger, so they ended up with less living space.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've had the experience where the every single basement was different, but the floor plan was the same for every unit. So it was kind of a surprise what kind of basement you got. So yeah, some cases were better than others, of course. So yes, change is definitely the name of the game. So just again, advise your clients, let them know that so that they're not surprised. All right, so the interim occupancy period. So when the condo is built and ready to be moved into, there is something called an interim occupancy period. So that's hard to say. When the buyer can take possession so they can move into the unit, but the building hasn't officially been registered, I believe is the correct terminology. So during that period, the buyer doesn't own the condo yet. They're able to live there and they're paying a small amount roughly to what their mortgage payment would be and their condo fees would be, but it's not actually applying to their mortgage because the mortgage hasn't been given. So that's the interim occupancy period. So you might actually have this situation even with rentals, where a unit is being rented and they're moving in during the interim occupancy period. I actually just helped my daughter move into a condo downtown, and it's very much in the interim occupancy period. Everything still has cardboard on the floors and in the elevator, and that the building hasn't been registered yet. But of course, owners are able to rent out those units during this time period. So you might have renters who are looking at buildings that are in this stage, and you probably can tell just by the fact that it is still very much feeling like it's under construction. Would you agree with that, James?
Yes, and actually, I moved into one myself. I bought an assignment, and it was about 6 months, a little longer than I expected, and it was okay. Over time, the amenities got fixed, the carpeting got laid, the drywall was finished in the hallways. But overall, it was fine. The unit was finished. It's just everything else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was the experience with my daughter moving into her condo. And yeah, I think everybody in that building is looking forward to the amenities. Hopefully, fingers crossed, they're ready by the summer. But you're right, the unit itself is ready to go. It's just all of the common areas and, of course, the amenities. So yeah, just something to keep in mind as well. And then eventually, yes, the building will get registered. So once a building has passed all the city inspections and they have to go through a whole process to become a legal entity, then they are officially registered. And so during that registration period, condo owners are transferred, how does this read? Condo ownership is transferred to the buyers. So mortgages come into effect. So at this point, buyers officially become owners. This is officially sort of the closing period. So this registration period can take anywhere from 3 months to 2 years. So James, you just mentioned yours was 6 months. But yeah, so it usually happens 4 to 8 months after people begin to move in for the interim occupancy period. So perfect. There we go. That all makes sense. Something to really keep in mind when you're talking to buyers about moving into pre-construction is closing costs. Very different than when you are buying a resale property. So when the unit is officially registered and you close on the purchase, you'll be responsible for all sorts of closing costs that, again, don't apply to resale units. So these builder adjustments apply to all new construction projects and include development and education costs. I think the major cost here to really keep in mind is the HST, of course, right? That's going to be your major differentiator between purchasing a resale property and a pre-construction. So just carrying on with what it says here, HST, of course, also on appliances and utility connection fees. So closing costs can easily amount to 1 to 3% of the original purchase price. So just something to keep in mind. So it's already hinting here that if you're looking at taking over someone else's contract by an assignment, which we'll talk about, look to see if the original owner capped the amount of these costs when they originally negotiated the unit. That's also a key thing to keep in mind, because when you do send that contract that we were talking about earlier to the buyer's lawyer to review, the lawyer might suggest capping some of those costs. So that is something that you can, rely on the lawyer to do. So just know that that is something that you can negotiate. So yeah, otherwise just make sure you've got tons of money set aside for closing costs. So yeah, definitely just remember that that those items can be capped when you're negotiating the unit. All right, something that makes pre-construction attractive is the condo fees, because condo fees in new buildings are usually set really low, right? So it looks very attractive to somebody who's considering pre-construction. They think that, they're going to have all these amazing amenities in a brand new building for only $125 a month or whatever it is, right? Whereas comparably, maybe resale properties have higher condo fees. So this is why it's set low. It's partly because they're estimated years in advance of the condo actually being built, and partly because they don't know the actual cost of the building. So instead of erring on the side of caution and going higher, they go lower. So it might be a little bit of a strategy, but expect condo fees in new buildings to increase substantially during the first 2 years. And they say typically 10 to 20%. What's your experience with that, James?
I completely agree with you on the 10 to 20%.
Okay.
But I also want to mention that in a lot of buildings, all the amenities are closed right now. All the gyms and pools and things, they're closed. So
yeah,
just for those that don't live in a condo, you may not know that. That's all.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's true. All right, so yes, condo fees, we'll cover the maintenance of all of that, but even though they're closed, your condo fees do not go down. Another side note. All right, so let's talk about the condo reserve fund. So when you buy pre-construction, you'll need to contribute 2 months condo fees to the condo's reserve fund, which is also known as the emergency fund. And that's something that usually happens at the time of closing. James, was that your experience? Did you have to do that as well? Is that standard always across the board?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, so there you go. There's another expense that again, wouldn't be applicable with a resale property. So keep that in mind. And again, even if you've never purchased a pre-sale condo, just know what these costs are. Just anticipate this so that you can inform your clients. So yeah, 2-month condo fees. Hopefully that won't be a surprise to your clients. You know it now, you can tell them about it. Last but not least, I did mention that HST is definitely the big differentiator between purchasing pre-construction and resale condos. So unlike resale condos, new condos are subject to HST. So if you're an end user, so you're going to be living in the unit yourself, you'll likely qualify for an HST rebate. And apparently most builders assume that you are, so this rebate is already factored in. But if you're an investor, there's a similar but different rebate, but you're only eligible if you rent the condo out for at least a year. you must prove it. If not, you may have to pay thousands of dollars in HST upon closing. So HST rules are confusing, but make sure to get legal advice about whether you qualify for the HST rebate. So we won't field those questions. If you do have questions about HST or tax implications, anything like that, then we do have an in-house lawyer that you can reach out to at Coach House Law if you don't have somebody that you already have on speed dial. All right. Let me see. Is this the same in BC? Yeah, this is pretty similar in BC. I'm originally from Vancouver. I did pre-construction out there. So yeah, everything is pretty much the same. I'm trying to think of anything that I might have mentioned that's different, but no, this is pretty similar to what we do in BC as well. Yeah, so great question. All right, so assignment sales, let's talk about this. Please explain pre-construction freeholds and what we're talking about applies to houses as well. Yeah, James, do you want to touch on that a bit?
Sorry, it took me a second to unmute.
Sure.
Yeah, it really depends on what kind of builder permit the builder got. In some cases, they can keep they just have land and the pre-construction house they're building, the freehold townhouse or the freehold detached house. All these things apply. But if they're renovating an older house, they may be able to keep a wall or two and the foundation and build the whole house, and then it's not considered pre-construction. So that's where it gets a little messy. You've got to find out what the listing agent says it is, what kind of building permits they have, and then you can see whether or not HST applies. So then it gets a little trickier.
Right. Yeah, definitely something to keep in mind. Great questions, guys. Thank you. How do we get there? Visiting the builders or the model homes? How do you get the details? Yeah. So again, great question. Sorry, I'm flipping around the slides here unintentionally. Yeah, so again, start with the website we recommended at the beginning, Buzzbuzzhomes. Find out where the pre-construction, where these projects are, what is appealing to you or your client if you're purchasing for yourself. And then, yeah, you can go and visit the sales center. Give the the company a call first. Just find out if they do have a model home already there, or how they're conducting their pre-construction sales, and just get some more information over the phone so that you're not driving out to a vacant lot, that there's actually a model home or at least a sales center, right? So just give them a quick call and then and just go visit them. So right now with COVID, you do have to call in advance. You have to make an appointment, and when you show up, they'll be ready for you, and they will have all of the floor plans, what's still available, probably a price list, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, whatever it is. So they'll be able to provide you with all of that. They may even be able to email you some preliminary information before you get there. But yeah, definitely look up what's available and call them to make an appointment. James, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say it's super important that your client doesn't go there on their own, because it's hard, because they usually register as soon as you walk in the door. And if they've done that already, it's very difficult for them to say, oh, I forgot to add my realtor.
Yeah.
So go there. You actually have to physically go there with your client the first time they visit the pre-construction sales center.
Yes, that is a very good point. And to add to that, thank you for saying that, some developers won't cooperate with realtors. So find that out as well. All right, so we're getting lots of questions, which is awesome. Okay, so we've got that one. How do we get there? So we've addressed that one. Capital gain. Okay, so yeah, that's I won't get into that too much because I'm not a lawyer, but if you have a specific situation, obviously reach out and unless you have anything to address there, James, but do you have to pay capital gains when we sell within a year?
I typically say there's people that are specialists in that field and they should talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I do with mortgages.
Yeah, exactly. Is it customary to negotiate a discount with a builder? Great question. So it is funny because before actually working in pre-construction, in the sales center, I just thought that these prices were set in stone and there was no negotiation, but buyers would walk in with an offer and the developer would take it. So I guess it really, it's down to the developer and whether or not they're going to negotiate. Sometimes they might negotiate finishes or whatnot. But in my situation where I was working, the developer did negotiate. So try it, keep that in mind. It may or may not work. James, anything on that?
No, I'm surprised, actually. I didn't know that either.
About negotiating?
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
good to
no,
know. Yeah.
I didn't expect it. I thought as I said, the prices were set in stone, but not so much, especially when there's just a few units left and they want to get rid of them. Yeah, all of a sudden there's a little bit more room to negotiate. Most of the time developers have their own realtor. Yes, in some cases they do. In some cases they have a sales team that may or may not be licensed. So yeah, there's different situations. So again, start with that website, reach out to the developers directly and find out how they're structuring their pre-sale, their pre-construction sale. If builders do not cooperate, can we ask them for a fee? Because a lot of realtors are doing that. Actually, that's something I've never heard of. James, have you heard of that before or with your team?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so yeah, again, something you might want to try. Trying to get a discount for your clients, trying to charge a fee as opposed to, a commission from the developer. I might mention here that if you have a buyer representation agreement with your clients, maybe that might be a way of getting compensated. That's up to you if you want to pursue them that way. How do you know which builders are cooperating? Great question. So just ask. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, James, but I believe Mattamy is the only one that doesn't, I shouldn't say only one, but is one of the major ones that doesn't.
Yeah, I'm with the you've got to ask group to see how much they are cooperating.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and then we've got a question here about RealNet. James, are you familiar with RealNet?
Not really. I've used it once or twice. I've seen it, but I haven't really used it. So I don't know how accurate it is.
Okay, so great question. You know what? I'm going to jot that down. I'm going to find out and just private message me your name so I can get back to you, or I'll post it on the workplace group as well. Let me see. International buyer has to pay speculation fee. Yeah, when you're dealing with an international buyer, it definitely involves a lawyer in that situation, just because there will be other requirements. We have another question here about advertising. Do we need to ask them permission? So this is something that I've recommended before. If things are listed on MLS, there is a way to search for properties where the listing agent is allowing other agents to promote their properties. So you can search for those. There's a specific field, and I think it's called permission to advertise. So that will bring up all properties, whether they are, assignment sales, if they're listed on MLS, because they're not always listed on MLS. Sometimes the developer doesn't allow that, but if they are, you'll see those, or any resale properties, you'll see, again, if you search for properties with permission, then you'll see which ones you can advertise. Still reach out to that listing agent though, just to make sure, just to have it in writing from them that yes, they are giving you permission to advertise, and then go ahead and advertise that listing, whether it's, an assignment or resale. All right. Daniel's Homes does not participate or does not cooperate. Okay. Now with this hot market, many of them don't cooperate. So lots of comments here. Where do we find pre-construction site, either condos or freehold? Buzz Homes, if you missed the beginning of the chat here. Any specific site? Yeah, so check that one out. All right, we're still having some people join us here. Let's transition. Let's talk about assignment sales. I love the questions, keep them coming, but I did want to get to this. So let's talk about, first of all, what assignment sales are. So an assignment is, of course, a sales transaction where the original buyer is the assignor, right? So him or her, they've decided to, not proceed with it. They're going to sell it. So it's allowing the other buyer, probably your client, the assignee, to take over the original purchaser's rights and obligations to that agreement of purchase and sale before the original buyer closes, right? So it's usually done before that interim occupancy period, before any of that. So, oh, great comment. Okay, yeah, we'll get to that. So the assignee is the one who ultimately completes the deal with the seller. So in other words, an assignment clause allows the buyer of a home to sell the place before they take possession of it. So a few things to notice here. An assignment clause allows the buyer to sell the place before they take possession, before they close. So that's kind of the first step. You have to make sure that the developer is allowing the original purchaser to assign their rights and obligations under the agreement of purchase and sale. Sometimes that comes with a cost. Sometimes the developer wants to charge $30,000 to allow for the assignment. So that's kind of the first step. And then from there, of course, there's two things. If the developer allows you to assign the unit, and then of course, if they're going to allow you to advertise it on MLS. And so if it is on MLS, then you'll be able to find it on there. So I'm going to show you a screenshot here of a unit that is an assignment sale. And the way that you can find this is logging into Matrix. If you're still on Stratus, same thing. And you can search for key terms. So when you're searching, just like you would search for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, you can also search the client remarks or the brokerage remarks for the key term assignment. And that should bring up properties that are available as an assignment sale. So that's how you would find them. And then of course you would have to reach out to the listing agent would be the next step, because the first step in all of this, if you have a buyer who is interested in purchasing an assignment sale, the first thing you want to know is what that original purchaser purchased the unit for. So you're going to need to reach out to the listing agent and get that agreement of purchase and sale. All right. So that's how you can find them on MLS. And then of course, if you do have a unit that is available on an assignment sale and your client is interested, then as always, I'm just going to show you here kind of like the nitty-gritty details. You would of course go to your web forms, and this is when you would select the offer condo assignment template if we're working with condos. So that's where you would go. And the great thing about doing this is that then you know what forms to complete. So again, we're talking about details now about how to actually put this together, because yes, if you are showing your clients pre-construction condos, let's just say, or you're working with them on purchasing an assignment sale, we're talking about really how to do that, right? How to get your hands dirty. So if they are interested in a condo assignment, then this is where you would go to prepare the paperwork. Again, making sure, of course, beforehand that the developer is permitting the assignment sale and that you've reached out to the listing agent to get the original purchase agreement of purchase and sale, because you need to know what they bought it for. You need to know what deposits have already been provided. So I'll show you here the forms that you would need. So just by selecting the template, this is going to give you a list of forms that you need. And you'll notice that it's different, right? So it's different than what we're used to. It's an assignment of agreement of purchase and sale. We're not doing an agreement of purchase and sale. So it is a whole new set of forms. Before I jump into this a little bit further, let me just see if there are any questions. So yeah, how do you search for it in Stratus? So again, you would just go into, you would log into Treb, you would do a property search, and you can select your area. So let's say Toronto, and then you would go ahead and in the client remarks, you may have to add that field to your search criteria. In the client remarks or the brokerage remarks, you would enter in the keyword assignment, and that should populate all of those assignment sales. You can also search for it actually on Zolo. So if you wanted to go to Zolo and click on properties for sale, condo, of course, in the search field, you could have Toronto. In that notes field, you can specify assignment, and that would also bring up all the assignment sales in that area. So there's a couple of ways to find them. But again, at Zolo, we're getting inquiries all the time. So this is really to address those inquiries that come in asking about a specific assignment sale and then how to proceed with that, right? So if you do have somebody who's interested in a property that's available and it's assignment sale, you do have to make sure that, you reach out to the listing agent and you get the original agreement of purchase and sale before you start proceeding with any of the paperwork. James, is that clear? Am I missing anything?
I was just going to add that on both Matrix and Stratus, you've got to go to the bottom and say add field. And on Stratus, you put contains assignment. And on Matrix, you put a star before and after the word assignment.
Good point. Yes. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, otherwise, that is true. You have to use stars in Matrix, the little, the asterisks. Thanks for that. That's true. All right. I'm just going to flip back up here because somebody asked a question about freehold assignment offer. Okay, so listing for sale, assignment freehold. Yeah, no, you're right. I don't see it either. So that is something that I will make a note to add, because yeah, the one that we have, so it would be the same template. So sorry, the question that I'm getting is, how do we submit an offer on a freehold property that is an assignment sale? And somebody rightly noticed that there isn't a template created for that. So I'll make sure that that is added. But in the meantime, it would be pretty much the same documents, the same forms, with the exception of Form 150. So this one is the assignment of agreement of purchase and sale condo. So you would just simply have to search for assignment of agreement of lease and select freehold. So that would be the only change there. Good catch. Thanks for that. Let me see if I'm missing any other questions. All right. Okay. Yes, I'll address this one now. How about properties that are not listed on MLS? Actually, there was a comment from somebody up here. FYI, there are 2 large Facebook groups for assignments only for realtors. These are great things to know as realtors, because you're right. A lot of assignment sales aren't listed on MLS because the developer doesn't. You just mute whoever that is. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I was saying sometimes developers won't allow you to advertise an assignment sale on MLS because they also have units for sale. So they don't want to be competing, is probably the logic. So they won't allow you to advertise their units. So in that case, this is great to know. So thank you, Sho, for adding this in the comments. So 2 large Facebook groups for assignments only for realtors. So just search that, add yourself to the group. And yeah, this way also, you know, for anybody who does reach out to you asking about assignment sales, you've got, you know, Buzz Homes in one pocket and you've got Facebook groups in the other pocket. So you're able to give some really good resources there. All right, so let's talk about this agreement of purchase and sale. So this is actually a sample agreement of purchase and sale. So this was a listing agent, you know, that I'll just say I had to reach out to, and you know, I needed the original agreement of purchase and sale, right? There was a Zolo lead that came in, they were interested in this property. So the first step is to reach out to the listing agent and ask for the original agreement of sale. So I've taken out, you know, obviously personal information, but as you can see, this is a different agreement of purchase and sale. This is a developer's form. So it looks a little bit different, but it does break down the deposit and what was already provided. So you can see, gosh, I can't see those months, but 20,000 was provided, another 20 was provided, and another 20 was provided. And the original purchase price is $676,900. Okay, so that's what that original unit was purchased for. That is the agreement between the developer and the original purchaser. So now if you have an assignee, then this is where it gets complicated. So this is where you really have to break it down. So when you do pull up those forms, you know, the agreement of purchase and sale for assignments, there are going to be usually 3 schedules. There's Schedule A, which is auto-populated for you already. So, you know, if you're creating a transaction kit, read over what it is in what it says in Schedule A. Similar to, you know, what we're used to with, you know, resale properties, that's Schedule A. Schedule B is this page, which is, you know, where questions come up, because it talks about the original purchase price, what the assignee is going to be paying for it, what the balance is, who gets what, the assignee and the developer. So this is where you have to really pay close attention. And then Schedule C would be the original agreement of purchase and sale that you requested from the listing agent. So that would be what would form your agreement of purchase and sale. So we can talk about this, but let me get to some questions here. Yeah, so people are asking for the Facebook group. So yeah, sounds like if you just search Facebook for assignments only for realtors, that should come up. I don't know if you have to specify Ontario or if there's one for Vancouver, but I'm sure there's a group out there that you can search for. All right, so, okay, so here we go. So this is the Schedule B, and this is where a lot of the questions come into play. So the assignee is probably going to be your client. We're making a couple of assumptions here. We're assuming it's a condo. We're assuming your client is the one buying the assignment condo, not selling it. That's a whole other conversation. So the assignee is your client. The assignor is, of course, the original purchaser. So that's the person selling the condo. And then you have, of course, the address and you have the date of your offer. So that's all pretty straightforward. And then it asks us for 6 different numbers or 6 different paragraphs to fill in. So the first one is going to be the total purchase price, including the original agreement of purchase and sale and this assignment agreement. So again, remember, we were looking back at the original agreement of purchase and sale, and that was purchased for $676.9. But we're going to offer $799, right? So that's the purchase price, including the original purchase price. So $799 is going to be what we're offering. And then in paragraph 2, it asks the purchase price of the original agreement of purchase and sale, as stated in Schedule C. So you'll have that attached. You'll be able to refer to it and plug in $676.9. That was the original purchase price. And then it asks the deposits paid by the assignor. So remember, the original purchaser, what deposit have they already paid under the original agreement of purchase and sale? So $60,000. Remember, we looked at that up here. We had the breakdown of the original purchase price and then 3 payments of $20,000. So we have $60,000 in paragraph 3 because that's what the original purchaser has already paid to the developer as part of the deposit. And then it asks you here to fill in sort of this line, and it tells you what you should put in there right underneath it. So it's more complicated than it needs to be. You just have to read what it says there. So upon acceptance of this assignment agreement and receipt of consent to assign from original owner or original seller is what you have to put in there. And then you proceed to paragraph 4. So the payment by the assignee to the assignor for this assignment agreement is going to be the difference, right? So 182, 100. Let me just do some quick math here. I'm not a numbers in my head kind of girl. 799 and then 676 is 122, 100. Yeah, so this is where it gets tricky. So paragraph 4 is the payment by the assignee to the assignor. So the difference between the original purchase price and the price that you're offering is 122, 100. You take the $60,000 deposit off of that, and that gives you the number you need for paragraph 4. So you kind of have to reverse engineer it. Or maybe you understand this differently in your brain than I do, but that's how I kind of work through this sheet. So paragraph 5, again, just reiterates that deposit. And then paragraph 6 says the balance of the payment for this assignment agreement would be 122, 100. So the payment to the assignor would be the deposit plus the difference in the original purchase price and the accepted offer. I can share this screen with you guys later on if you want it, with some explanations. But that's what would be payable within 24 hours of acceptance. So let's just break that down for a second. If you are representing a client and they're looking at a resale property, right, and they have to deliver their 5% deposit within 24 hours of acceptance, that's pretty simple, right? Where it's an assignment sale, they actually have to provide the deposit plus the difference in the amount of the original purchase price and the accepted offer. So it's a larger number, right, than what it would be if they had been the original purchaser of the assignment of the pre-construction condo, or of course if they're purchasing a resale condo. So the deposit is higher, and this is why this is sometimes cost preventative for people, right? Because they're basically reimbursing the original purchaser their deposit plus the difference, right? That seller wants their money. So that is what gets paid upon acceptance. And then the balance of the purchase price would be due to the developer upon closing. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. We can talk about that. We can unpack that a little bit more, but that's basically the gist of it. James, was that clear? Let me know.
Yeah, yes, clear. I would just say, it's 1 minus 2 plus 3 gives you number 4.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's how
you're right. You're right on all counts, though.
So that's how we'll do this. I always recommend going to the OREA website, downloading those explain forms, because everything is written in red. It's broken down in plain English. So we can definitely create this page and do exactly what James just said in red. What are you subtracting? What are you adding? What are you putting in line for? Because really, they could have used easier language. They could have broken it down a little bit better, but it is what it is. So that's how you work that page. So just keep in mind, when you do get to an assignment sale, and if it's your first time doing it, and you're not sure about this, reach out to your growth manager, but this is kind of the breakdown that you should know. So anyway, like I said, I'm happy to provide an explained form for this. Okay, let me just see if there are questions. Do you share your content as well in the webinar? Do I share content? Yes, so all of this content, I can post it on the workplace group. Actually, probably for this one, I'll just attach the slides. So oftentimes, there's a question about, an email template that you guys want or whatever, or a link to a website. So I do add that to the workplace group. And in this case, I think I'll just upload all of the slides because I think that, usually I just have pictures and I talk about it, but this time there was some paragraphs that I think you guys can just download and keep and refer to later when you're doing assignment sales. So hopefully that all makes sense. Let me know if you guys have other questions. Is this recorded and posted on Workplace? Yes, so all of the training sessions on Tuesday and Thursday, they do get recorded, they get uploaded to our YouTube channel, and then that link is shared with you on the Workplace group. So we definitely don't keep it a secret. We want you guys to be able to access it. In addition to that, we have the online academy. If you guys have not explored that, it is in your CRM. So in your toolbar up at the top, just click on Tools and go to Academy. I think it's the second option. And going to Academy actually takes you to a really nice platform. And up at the top, it gives you a link to our YouTube channel. So you'll be able to view this session and many others on there as well. All right, so we've got a question here or a situation for pre-construction. Let me see. If client registered me as their real estate rep initially without me being there with them, when and how to approach the builder about getting the commission paid and how much is that commission? Great question. So if they did involve you as their realtor, hopefully you were involved with completing the agreement of purchase and sale, so the developer's form. That would be your initial involvement in the deal. And then every developer is different. Some of them pay a higher commission. Some of them you might have to negotiate a fee, as somebody mentioned earlier. So just find out from the developer how they're cooperating and when. Sometimes you have to wait until everybody moves in and it closes. Sometimes they do, a commission payout earlier. So lots of questions to ask directly to the developer because the answer to that question changes. All right, can you please explain about GST included properties by developers? Again, that's probably going to be an answer that changes with developers because in BC, some of the properties listed as GST included. Yeah, so I would reach out to the developer directly to find out about that, like what the actual purchase price is. You would want to know what the actual purchase price is, I think. How would you address that one, James? Any ideas?
I would reach out to the developer as well.
Yeah. Okay. When the seller of an assignment gets paid on closing or just upon accepting the offer? Yeah, so great question. So yeah, that's what I was saying on the last slide. So when you do have an offer accepted, the signer, the seller of that unit should get paid by the new purchaser, the assignee, upon acceptance of the offer. Unless, of course, if something else has been negotiated, but typically that's what it would be. All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was really well attended, and I'm glad that we were able to provide this topic to you guys. If there's any other suggestions that you guys want to see more training on, definitely reach out to me and let me know. If you do have any more questions, we have a few more minutes, but I will just take the opportunity right now to plug once again ZoloCon, because if this was of interest to you, I know that there will be many sessions tomorrow that will also be of interest to you. So please register, please join us. Lots of topics to discuss. So otherwise, other than that, there's definitely the training calendar on the workplace group. Okay, yeah, sorry, we do have a question coming in. Altaf, yeah, sorry, I didn't see that you raised your hand. Go ahead and unmute yourself. And let's chat. Let me know what your question is.
My question is that, like for a non-resident Canadian or a foreigner, what are the conditions for as an investment in Canada?
So great question. So there would be probably the foreign buyer's tax. So I would, in this case, anytime you're working with a foreign investor, I would just reach out to a real estate lawyer initially, just to find out, what exactly is involved.
Okay, and yeah, because I have heard about this, they can buy without a speculation tax outside this golden horseshoe area, and within golden horseshoe they have to pay a 15% speculation tax.
Yeah, so there is a foreign buyer's tax. So yeah, but there's always different situations with that, like in terms of, whose name is it going to go under? Sometimes there's people who are living here, and anyway, it gets complicated depending on the situation. So I would just recommend reaching out to a real estate lawyer and just explaining whatever situation they're in, how they're going to be sending money for the purchase of the property. It just gets complicated.
How about one more question? How about two joint buyers? One is Canadian and one is non-Canadian. In that case, what happens?
Yeah, so again, I would reach out to a real estate lawyer. I think I have the answer to that, but I don't want to.
I think James can answer this one.
What's
No,
that?
I can't, sorry.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. Anytime it's a foreign buyer, the situations are always a little bit different, because usually there's somebody here. That's probably why they're wanting to buy a property. Even if it's for investment, they probably have somebody here, and then they might want to put it partially in their name or entirely in their name, and then they're sending money from overseas. So I would definitely encourage you to reach out to a real estate lawyer and just describe the situation, and they can properly advise you on what's best.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Awesome. Okay, so last but not least, videos on YouTube on offers. Yes, absolutely. We have a ton of them. So yeah, just go ahead and search for working with buyers, working with sellers. There's sessions in there on multiple offers. So that's definitely the market we're in right now. So look those up, and yeah, you'll be able to find lots of information on there. And again, as I said, if there's any other suggestions you want in terms of training, definitely send them to me, and I will do my best to put something together for you guys. So awesome. Thank you so much, James. Thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Great questions, great attendance. And I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow at ZoloCon. All right. Bye, everybody. Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Jane.
Thanks, James.